The NHL, more than any other league, relies on strong locker room chemistry.
Off for a second.
Hockey is a sport of many moving variables. Therefore, it is crucial that your team has a system in place and that your entire team is bought in. As we have seen chemistry over star power win a Stanley Cup. But we've also seen a player single-handedly sabotage a team's chemistry because of apparent attitude issues. Thus, we see the reason why teams don't and can't deal with problematic players. As we have seen incidents single-handedly get a player bought out, traded, and even banned from the NHL.
For the first pick overall in the 2014 NHL Draft from the Ontario Hockey League, Aaron Ekblad.
The 2014 NHL Draft has proved to be extremely bizarre. Besides Leon Draisaitl, the top talent from this draft was not found in the top 10. David Pastrnak, 25th overall, Brayden Point in the 3rd, Victor Olofsson in the 7th. The 2014 NHL Draft is a prime example on how great scouting can be far more valuable than the number you pick at. And what's even more interesting about this draft was the fact it had a black sheep. Every few drafts, we see a prospect who puts up the stats of a top 5 pick. Except, for various reasons, commonly involving attitude issues, the majority of teams won't even consider to draft them. And in 2014, Tony Deangelo was that guy. Even though he had an unbelievable 71 points in 51 games in his draft year, even though he had top 2 upside, Deangelo's attitude issues were enough to make 18 teams pass on him. And to most teams, it was completely warranted. To start, Deangelo in his draft year would be suspended multiple times for using racial and homophobic slurs to the other team, the ref, and even his own teammates. And among those incidents, he would even be suspended for 8 games for breaking the harassment, abuse, and diversity rules. So on top of the fact that Deangelo was a player who didn't like to listen to coaches and management, he was identified to be problematic. But when a player is drafted, he's only 18, if not 17. I am by no means excusing his actions, but I know when I reflect back to those times, I feel like that person is completely different from today. So let's fast forward. Deangelo the next season would put up monster stats. With the Greyhounds, he almost put up 2 points per game. 2. As a defenseman, he would go on to dominate the AHL, and at this point, Deangelo was arguably the best drafted defensive prospect in the world. Except, because of underlying attitude issues, even though he was dominating the AHL, he would be healthy scratched several times. And so, only a couple years after the draft, Deangelo would be traded to Arizona for only a 2nd round pick. To put this into perspective, imagine if Cale Makar, while playing in the NCAA, was just given away for a 2nd. It wouldn't happen, unless there were some bad issues behind the scenes. Flash forward to 2017. Deangelo would see some time in the NHL and still play great in the minors. However, it was the same old story. Now, add the fact that he received a game misconduct and a 3-game suspension for abusing a ref. Not even 1 year later, even though he was still considered a top defensive prospect in the world, Deangelo would be traded once again in a package deal to the New York Rangers. And today, whether you like him or not, Deangelo is an absolute stud, as he has been growing into a premier puck-moving defenseman, and even ranked at number 12 in Norris voting. Deangelo is a character. Today he triggers many people with his political beliefs online, and so hopefully today he can control his emotions and move away from being a locker room cancer, because he has so much talent. Even though I really do not respect the things he's done, I really hope he's matured from those very childish days. Next, we have Slava Voynov. And of course, if you enjoy the videos, make sure to press subscribe for some more awesome hockey content. We started the year with a goal of 5,000 subscribers. We are almost at 40,000. Insane. So any support is truly appreciated, as it has been life-changing and I am very grateful for all the positive support on my videos. Playing in the KHL, or what was equivalent of the KHL, Voynov was a hidden gem. He played very well in international tournaments, but because he was so young, he got little ice time with his actual team and limited opportunity. A very common theme we see in Russia with young players. So, when it came to the 2008 NHL draft, Voynov would be stolen in the second round by the LA Kings. And after being drafted, LA would inject Voynov into their minor system, where he would develop really well. And after 3 years of development, Voynov would make his introduction into the NHL. And it could not have happened at a better time, as Voynov would play a bottom pairing role and win a Stanley Cup in his rookie season. Not a bad way to start a career. And after this, we would see Voynov develop into a very good top 4 defenseman. His offensive numbers would shoot up, and he played a very solid all-around game. In 2014, Voynov would win his second Stanley Cup. And yes, you heard that correctly. In Voynov's first 3 years in the NHL, he would win 2 Stanley Cups. Considering that some players spend their entire career trying to track down a cup, this was a prolific start. However, it would happen.
The NHL has suspended a 2-time Stanley Cup winner who was accused of assaulting his wife. Slava Voynov's ban from practices and games came just hours after his arrest in California.
Voynov would be banned, suspended indefinitely, for being arrested for domestic violence. However, Voynov's wife would defend him, saying it was an accident. So, take that how you will. Regardless though, Voynov would still be put in prison for 90 days, and he received 3 years of probation. And so after the incident, of course the Kings were not so happy, and Voynov would flee back to Russia, where he has spent the last 5 years playing in the KHL. And I do want to emphasize that these are all allegations. And to make matters worse, Voynov was non-apologetic about the situation. And so, after trying to come back to the NHL in 2019, the NHL once again would make a stand and state that Voynov was still suspended indefinitely for at least this entire year. And even though the LA Kings still owned his rights, they would state that Voynov will never return in a Kings uniform. And don't get me wrong, I'm one for second chances. And maybe it's because Voynov is in Russia, so it's really hard to see how he's dealt with the situation since. But as it stands, it's hard to imagine how Voynov could ever make a return without seeing many fans completely revolt against the situation. But what do you guys think? Does Voynov deserve another shot? Next, we have the Mitchell Miller saga. After trading away and having to forfeit first and second round picks for illegal fitness testing, the Arizona Coyotes in the 2020 NHL draft would select Mitchell Miller. And if you guys aren't fully familiar with the protocols and steps scouts take when evaluating prospects, to put into perspective, it is common practice for scouts to literally wait in lobbies and/or the stands to see how prospects interact with their family after a game. If he goes up to his mom and gives her a big old hug, this is seen to be a massive positive. But on the other hand, if that same prospect lost the game, came out of the dressing room and was snappy to his mom, this character trait can make a team consider their interest in that player. And just like Deangelo, even if you have the skill of a top 10 talent, if your character is put into question, many teams won't even consider undrafting you. As we have seen team morale, chemistry, and more importantly culture single-handedly leverage a team to winning a Stanley Cup. And we've also seen a single problematic player, aka, a locker room cancer, single-handedly ruin a team's dynamic and chances at winning a cup. So I hope that gives you a better idea, a better perspective on why teams will pass on troublesome prospects. So, back to the story. When Miller was in high school, he was involved in numerous cases of bullying an African American classmate who also had a learning disability. And I've seen many comments saying, well, kids bully each other, and it doesn't mean you are permanently a bad person. And although I do agree with that sentiment, Miller's case was far more extreme, as not only did he use racial slurs directed against his victim, but he brutally assaulted him on multiple occasions, and did many more things I can't even speak about without being demonetized. and these actions would transpire for years. Miller would even be brought to court, where he had to sit in front of a judge and was sentenced to community service. And again, people make mistakes. With this rationale, I've seen many comments defending Mitchell Miller. It makes me want to puke. But this just wasn't a single mistake. This was numerous, horrendously cynical mistakes that seriously damaged another individual's life. And guess what? No matter who you are, no matter what side of the fence you sit on, horrible actions have horrible consequences. Especially if you do nothing to reconcile the situation. Because I do want to emphasize, the victim's mom said Miller not once apologized directly to the victim. Not once. So, remember how I said scouts will reconsider you if you treat your mom wrong? Can you imagine how teams felt after hearing Miller's story? He has displayed the literal exact opposite of the character traits an NHL team wants. So, when the Arizona Coyotes drafted him in the 4th round, other teams were literally shocked, where they made audible gasps regarding Arizona's drafting decision, as it has been stated that all 31 NHL teams were completely aware of Miller's history. Now, I will say Arizona has been going through some inner turmoil, and they did say in a statement that they didn't know the depth of the situation, but as you can expect, there was backlash. So much backlash that the Arizona Coyotes would denounce the rights of Mitchell Miller, which basically means that he was terminated from the system. On top of that, North Dakota, the team he was committed to, would terminate his player contract. And even if Miller wanted to make the situation better, it's too late. Now, if he apologizes, it's a cop-out. You're just doing it to save face. So at the very least, I hope Miller did reach out. I hope he did learn from his actions. And I hope this incident is a precedent at making our game better. Racism is not and will not be tolerated in the game of hockey. And as this sport grows, we as hockey fans and players have the responsibility to make hockey a welcoming community. But anyways guys, has your team ever had a player with attitude issues? Comment down below. And make sure to press subscribe for some more awesome hockey content. Again, we are so close to 40,000 subscribers. I can taste it. So let's keep the grind going. I of course appreciate your support very, very much. I hope all you guys are doing well. See you guys later.